going on, guys? It's Ricky with TechBot Solutions. So just another recap on today's trading. So I did 2 trades today. My first one was on SPU. I did from 626 to 642, and then my alert on ZSAN, which I got in at 220, averaged out at 210, so at 215, and ended up exiting at 227. This alert today hit highs of 301 and bounced down and continued to rise. So a lot of traders were able to make a large amount of profit. And I'll tell you guys on why I sold, what kind of led to my success on trading today. So usually we start off the morning saying good morning to one another, talk to them about different stocks that I've shut out before that are doing very well today. So I'm just going to get right into it. So for my first alert on SPU, the reason I have alerted you guys so consistently with SPU was just because it tends to bounce very well around the 630 area. So anything below or at 630 tends to do pretty well. Cutting losses at anything below what it is that you buy in. So at 626 I had a stop loss at 6.2599, meaning that I'm risking 1 cent if that, because I usually risk 1/10 of a cent just to minimize loss, just because I can identify that as a support. Definitely tends to pick up well above 640 at least daily, right? Based on the last couple of days, comes down to around 630, hits highs of 647, comes down to 630 and it hits 640. So it's just a quick little profit, not huge amounts, and that's kind of what led to my trade today. I ended up dropping down to 628 today. I saw a couple traders get in just because of the trends that they've been able to identify, and then with that now SPU is sitting around 635. It hit highs of 640 already, so I'm not too sure if they sold, but that was just my little breakdown on SPU on why I decided to go in. So it's just being able to identify these support levels, the resistance levels, which support would be an ideal good buy point, resistance would be a good sell point, and then cut losses anything below the support to minimize loss. So that was my whole plan going into SPU. It tends to do pretty well. So if we do a 10-day analysis, does have nice little spikes, so I'm kind of just waiting on those. Within the past 10 days, it's had 2 spikes that have led it to hit highs of above $7 from a price of 640. So definitely has that 10% potential, but it tends to do that more likely, or most likely, when it's above 640. It has those high momentum spikes, and that's pretty much my analysis on SPU. All right, so for my second trade, I want to really focus on this one today because this was the biggest gainer for today. So it's up, well above 40%. Right now it's at 281. It was at $3.01. That was a high. That was the resistance that it set. And I'm going to show you guys why I chose to go into ZSAN and why it was in one of my watch lists. So yesterday hit lows of nearly a little bit like 165, and hit highs of $2.15. It looks. Came back down, hit the support, and then during today went sub $2, and then once the market opened, it just had a huge spike. And ZSAN, the reason I shouted this one out was I asked them what they thought about momentum trading. So I asked my group, right, TechBot Solutions. They do very well when it comes to momentum trading. I'm more of a technical trader, so I wanted just to give it a shot, right? I saw on the first bounce, hit highs of 227, came back down, lows of 210, and then that's when it really started to rise. I traded it on that initial spike, so I'm gonna go ahead and get to it. But the reason I don't want to show you guys, the whole spike on what it did was, what was my plan going into it? Where was I buying? Where did I plan to sell? And why, right? So my initial plan was to actually buy anything around the 210 to 215 area. I wanted to get at this good bounce. I mean, you're able to identify this as a support. Anything around from the 210, 215. It quickly set a resistance right around that 225, 227 area, and that's why I actually sold at that point. But that was my mistake. So as it came back down, hit highs of about 227, and then that's when I sold, came back down, and then that's when it popped up. So my initial plan going into it, the reason I bought in where I did was because I knew at this point, this, like we've said before, this was yesterday, it hit highs of about 215. So I knew that old resistance levels become new support levels. So when it bounced at 215 the way it did, like it did right here, then that's how I knew that most likely that was going to be a good support. But when it hit a resistance of about 327, that's what kind of scared me. Again, I'm not much of a momentum trader. Realistically, my plan was to sell around the 240 area, and the reason why, because I was able to identify this the resistance right here. So realistically, my plan was to get in around 210, 215 and sell around 240, and then call that my profit for the day. But when I got in, the momentum wasn't really just there. So because of that, I ended up selling at 227, and I'm gonna get a little bit closer so you guys can see exactly how it played out. So when it hit highs of 227, it hit highs of 227, came back down and then hit it again. That's when I ended up selling, and then came back down, went below 220. So I thought, okay, look, I sold at a good point, and the reason I sold was because I was already up, $168. Didn't want to, lose that. So I just decided to sell. Again, once it bounced, the volume really started to pick up, and that's what led to the break at 330. And then after that, I most likely knew it was going to continue to rise. But again, I'm not much of a momentum trader, but I alerted the team, and that's the whole point of this group. So I created this group in an effort to share best practices and mistakes. Right as I alerted the team that I got in on ZSAN, they did their own analysis, and then they decided to jump on in as well. And then that's when it really started to pick up. So I put that I sold my $168 with a profit from 215 to my exit at 227. And then a couple other traders followed just because they didn't see the potential or they weren't actually following the stock that much. And then everyone else started to alert. All right, 230, and then 233, 240, and then that's when it really started to pick up. Again, ZSAN is known to be a momentum stock, and because I was able to identify that, I knew most likely it was going to continue to rise. Told them that there was a resistance at 272. Ended up breaking that a couple minutes later, and then a couple minutes later hit highs of 301. So great job for all those that were able to jump in. Again, just that risk wasn't worth it for me because of the amount that I was risking, in a sense, right? I didn't understand ZSAN too well. So I want to make sure that all those that are trading, yes, I did in a sense miss out on hundreds of dollars of profit, if you think about it that way, right? But realistically, when I thought where I was going to buy in, where I was going to sell, and where I was going to cut my losses, I mean, I was in the green. Realistically, in the long run, being able to lock in these profits like this, if ZSAN would have dropped or taken a huge dip after it hit the resistance at the 230 resistance that I ended up selling close to, and it would have taken a dip back to below $2, then I would have been very happy because I sold. Again, ZSAN is in a sense still, I think, overpriced for where it's at because of this huge volume or huge price spike that it had. So that's why I didn't feel comfortable trading it. It was too close to the support of $2, and I didn't want there to be a huge spike all the way down and not being able to cut my losses because the volume to be too high. So again, every time that you go into a trade, make sure you understand the support, make sure you always understand the resistance, and make sure you always understand where you're going to cut your losses, and stick by your plan. Don't let the volume or anything like that really be a deciding factor on why you're going to hold a little bit longer, because when you start breaking your rules, that's what's going to lead to you start to lose a little bit more money. So it looks like right now, if you guys see this little small moving average, it looks like it's almost going to cross the candlesticks. So what that means is eventually, once they do end up crossing, that's when most likely you're going to see a downward trend, and you're going to see people starting to short ZSAN. But that's pretty much my analysis on ZSAN today. Hopefully you guys found the tips and tricks that I used today somewhat helpful to help you guys be a little bit more successful when it comes to trading. If you guys would like to be part of TechBud Solutions, feel free to join. The link is provided for you down below. It is a group I started on teaching members worldwide the basics and fundamentals of trading penny stocks. You don't have to have any experience. You can have experience. We're sitting about 2,200 members worldwide with all the different platforms we have available. And if you would like to be part of our group chat platform, feel free to email me. My email is also provided for you down below, where you can ask for the group chat platform. I am backed up about 48 to 72 hours, so please give me some time to respond to that. Thank you guys again so much for tuning in. If you guys can give this video a thumbs up, if you guys found this video helpful, then I would really appreciate it. Feel free to subscribe just for our daily recap videos and the different card videos that we upload. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and let's make sure that we end this week on a green note. Take care, guys.